we are going to play Battle Cry. And specifically, we're going to play the Battle of Kernstown scenario. Now, Kernstown was fought on March 23rd of 1862 in Frederick County, Virginia, which is near Winchester, Virginia. It was the opening battle of Confederate Major General Thomas Stonewall Jackson's campaign through the Shenandoah Valley during the Civil War. And interestingly, it's one of Jackson's rare defeats. Jackson had originally started in the area, but had moved to the south down the valley, and he got some intelligence that there was a small detachment under Colonel Nathan Kimball, a Union general, that was extremely vulnerable. Unfortunately, this intelligence was incorrect, and he moved back towards Winchester, Virginia, hoping to get it as a prize, and ran into a much, much larger force than he imagined. He was up against a whole infantry division at this point. Now, he decided to make the best he could of the situation, and he tried a cavalry attack, but this cavalry attack was forced back. He then immediately reinforced it with a small infantry brigade, and with his two other brigades, Jackson sought to envelop the Union right by way of the Sandy Ridge that was on the west side of the battlefield. But Colonel Erastus B. Tyler's brigade countered this movement, and there was a race to try to outflank each other. Then Kimball's brigade moved up and provided assistance, and after a day of hard fighting, when the Confederates ran out of information, they were driven from the field. Kimball decided not to pursue them, however. At the end of the day, there were 600 Union casualties, and there were 700 rebel casualties. And although the battle was a Confederate tactical defeat, it represented a strategic victory for the South. It prevented the Union from transferring forces from the Shenandoah Valley to reinforce the Peninsula Campaign, which was also being waged near the Confederate capital of Richmond. So in a way, Jackson saved the day. Battle Cry was released in 1999 by Avalon Hill Games. This is actually one of the last games that came out from the old Avalon Hill Gaming Company. It was a kind of a confusing time, and eventually Wizards of the Coast snapped it up and sold it under several versions after that point. It was designed by Richard Borg, and like I say, it's gone through several iterations since it came out. The game's extremely simple to play. There are 4 different types of combat units, and if we look at them down here by our Jackson commander, you can see that there's an infantry. Infantry have 4 hit points. There's artillery, which have 2 hit points. There's cavalry, which have 3 hit points, and there are generals. And generals don't have hit points per se. They're a little different and can do some special things. Infantry, if we look at the chart here, can fire. Infantry can move 1 hex and then battle. So for instance, this infantry unit moves and battles against Kimball, or it can move 2 hexes and not battle. Cavalry can move 1 hex, but if they move, they cannot battle. They have to be stationary that round in order to battle. Cavalry can move 3 hexes and then battle if they're adjacent to another unit. And generals can move 3 hexes. They can be either on their own out here, or they can actually attach to a unit, like Jackson is with this infantry unit. And they do provide some special characteristics that units they're attached to can use. When an infantry unit chooses to battle, they roll dice, and dice indicate what kind of damage they do. Now, if they're fighting 1 hex away, they roll 4 dice. If they're 2 hexes away, they roll 3 dice. If they're 3 hexes away, they roll 2 dice. And if they're 4 hexes away, they roll 1 dice. So Kimball here is being attacked, and he is 1, 2 hexes away, or 4, 3 dice. They roll the battle dice, and each face of the battle dice, which is a 6-sided dice, does a different thing. If it's a little soldier, it does damage to infantry. If it shows a little cavalry horse, it does damage to cavalry. If it shows a little cannon, it does damage to artillery. If it shows cross sabers, it does damage to any unit, and it can also hit the general. And if it's a flag, the attacked unit has to move back 1 hex. So in this case, the infantry attacks Kimball, and they rolled 3 soldiers. So this little infantry unit will take 3 hit points of damage. When they get to 0 hit points, they're removed from the game, and they are pulled over to the side as a victory point. You have to get 6 victory points to win the game. Cavalry units can move up to 3 hexes, and then they can make an attack. They make an attack into an adjacent hex for 3 dice of damage. So in this case, the cavalry attacks this infantry unit. It does 2 damage, and since there's a flag, it pushes it back 1 hex. Now, cavalry can follow this up with another charge. If they choose to follow up to 2 hexes, they can chase these guys. If they're able to get back in range again, they're able to get a second roll for damage. So in this case, they move down, and they could roll again for 3. There's a cross saber, so they take a hit, and so on. Now they could also, if they made a charge, they don't necessarily have to attack the unit that they're chasing. If there's another unit in range, they can attack it. So if this cavalry unit had charged, and I moved that artillery over to show this point, they could actually move over and attack this artillery unit instead. One thing infantry can do interesting is if an attacker is unable to move them back, then the defending infantry can actually fight back. So let's say, for instance, this cavalry unit is unable to push back this infantry unit in the cavalry unit's turn. At the end of the turn, this infantry unit can then fight back with 4 battle die. If a general unit is attacked, so let's say, for instance, Kimball is attacked here by this infantry unit, and the infantry unit would be able to roll 3 dice. For every crossed saber that hits this defending unit with a general in it, the general has to make a saving throw. And the saving throw involves rolling 2 dice, and if 2 cross sabers are rolled during a saving throw, that general is eliminated. Now, if a general is out on his own and isn't attached to a unit, attacking unit only has to get a single cross saber in regular combat. So, for instance, if this infantry unit was attacking Kimball, and they rolled 3 dice, and let's just roll it, and one of those dice was a cross saber, then Kimball would be eliminated. Generals can also be forced to back up. So generals provides 2 distinct advantages to the units that they're attached to. The first is that the attached unit adds 1 dice to their roll. So for instance, if a cavalry unit under Kimball is attacking this infantry unit, normally the cavalry unit would use 3 dice to attack. However, since Kimball's with him, he can now use 4. Another advantage that a general gives a unit is that the first flag that is rolled against the defending unit doesn't count. In other words, they soak it off. So if the infantry were to attack Kimball's unit and make 4 attacks, and let's just say there were 2 flags, the first flag would be soaked off, but then they would have to follow the second flag and would have to retreat 1. Now, one thing important on retreats is that a unit retreating has to move directly backwards. They have to retreat straight back. They cannot move side to side. So let's say Kimball's cavalry unit is fighting this little infantry unit down here, and he gets a flag. You can see this cavalry or this infantry unit cannot go directly backwards because Jackson's infantry and the artillery unit are blocking his path. Therefore, they have to eat one of those flags as a hit. So in other words, if they rolled 1 flag, this infantry will not retreat. However, they will take a hit for it. Different types of terrain affect combat. Most of them affect the number of dice that are rolled when a unit is in a certain type of terrain. For instance, let's take, for instance, Kimball being in the woods here. The infantry decides to attack him. Normally, if they were in open terrain, the infantry could roll 3 2 dice. However, since Kimball's in woods, and those provide 1 dice of protection, they'll get 3 2 1 dice that this infantry unit can roll against Kimball. The battlefield is divided into 3 sections. It's divided into a left flank, a center, and a right flank. And this determines how movement is made. Movement is based off of order cards, and each side in this particular scenario will start with 5 order cards. It depends on the scenario as to how things are. The most basic order cards are these ones that kind of show all 3 sides. And for instance, let's say we have to draw a card every turn and play a card every turn. Let's say we played this skirmish card, and we are the Union. So the Union can move 1 unit on their left flank, no more, no less. So they could move this infantry too. Now this infantry looks like he's dead. Let's recover his hits a little bit. There we go. Now he's alive again. At the end of your turn, you draw another card and follow what it says. We can try to play a coordinated attack in the next turn. And so that means that you can order 1 unit on each of your flanks and your center to move. So let's say the Union decided to move this time. They could move 1 unit over here. Kimball is actually on the line between the two, between the left flank of the Union and the center, so they can take advantage of either one of those. So I'll just say they move their 3. And then on the left flank here, we can move this Union unit there and discard. When you're done with the turn, the other player plays a card, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. There's a lot of turns in this game. There are also cards that, like this Forced March card here, which do something very specific. These cards are a little more rare, and basically, for instance, in a Forced March, you issue an order to all your infantry units to move, and each unit may move 2 hexes and battle, so it gives you kind of an exception. And some of these allow you to fight at a more enhanced rating and such. So that's pretty much it. Like I say, to win, you have to bring enemy units down to 0 hit points, and then you just stack them up. Once you get 6 of them, you've won the game. Okay, let's play Battle Cry. We're going to play the Battle of Kernstown from the 23rd of March of 1862. This is one of 2 losses that Jackson had during the war. So we've got the Union up here at the top and the Confederacy down at the bottom. If we check the module's notes in Vassal here, it tells us who the 2 generals that are against each other are, and then the number of command cards that each side takes. So we'll have 5 for each side, and the Confederacy is going to move first. So let's start with the Confederate player here and draw cards. Move this down a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And take a look at our hand. Okay, so we've got these cards here which are going to show us movement, and then we've got 1 tactical card here, this leadership card, and we're going to save this leadership card till we can get our leaders moved up with some units. So we really need to work on that. If you look down here, there's 2 things Confederacy needs to do. There's a fence line here, and they need to get up to the fence line, and using it for some defense, start to absorb the charge that the Union will make towards them. And the other thing is they've got their leaders here, but the leaders are not attached to any units, and we need to get those leaders attached. So we've got a leader in each section, and since these guys are on the line, they can be either on the left flank or they can be in the center section, which is kind of nice. So we can move him up here with this infantry section. Now he's no longer in the, and we're going to use this probe card, I'm sorry, so we're going to discard that. And with the probe card, we can move 2 units. I'm going to move Garnett up here and move him into place here. Since he can move 3, the leader can move 3, and the infantry can move 1. So we're going to put them together here. And that's going to be it for the Confederate turn. So we'll retire the Confederate turn and move to the Union. The Union's going to have to basically overwhelm the Confederates here. They have more units, so they should be able to do it. Again, we need to get leaders hooked up with some infantry units here. So let's see what we got for cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we've got some tactical cards here. Fire and hold position. We're going to have to use it later because we're not in any place to fire. I don't think this guy could have fired. Let's see, 4, 3, 2, 1. No, 4, 3, 2. Actually, this guy could. Let's go back to the Confederate and say that he can fire. So 1 cav, so he misses. This would have had to be an infantry. Okay, now we're back to the Union. Oh, but here I keep getting ahead of myself. He gets a second one since he has a leader with him. There's that infantry. So the infantry actually did take a hit here. Okay, now we're back to the Union here. So that's kind of cheating for the South, but that's okay. Okay, they've got 2 units they can move forward in the center. They can skirmish on the right, or their left flank. That's the Union left flank. Probe on the right, or move 3 in the center. Which do we have? And then the fire and hold, but we're going to have to move forward. Let's try to get our line forward here a little bit. So let's go. We've got 2 units here, so we can move him here, and 1, 2. Okay. And that's going to be our 2 units. The leader is 1 unit, and that infantry is the other. Okie doke. And then he's going to fire. So 4, 3, 2, but he's behind this, so that's 1. But he's got a extra die because he's got a leader with him. So it's actually 5, 4, 3, 2. So 2 dice. Cav and cav. So both of those are going to be misses. We retire the Union and go to the Confederacy. Confederacy goes. The question is, what can they do? The plan is I'm going to move one unit from the right flank, and that's going to be Stonewall Jackson. So 5, 4. Maybe this can do it. Infantry, artillery, infantry, cavalry. So 2 infantry hits. Take hit. Take hit. And that's it. Okay. Yeah, Union's going to go. They can assault over here, or they can fire and hold position. Let's fire and hold position. And that means that these guys are going to fire here, and these guys are going to fire here. Let's check on the artillery down there first. So 4 against the artillery. That's enough to take it. If we would have gotten a flag against the artillery, they would also have been eliminated because they would have been forced off the edge of the map. But okay. He's going to go 4 against flag, infantry, cavalry, artillery. So he takes a hit and he moves backwards 1. I'm going to say he moves into place. Okay. He can't fire back because... Oh, he actually can fire back. I think he can. Cross sabers, flag, infantry, infantry. Oh, 3 hits. Take hit. Take hit. Take hit. And he's moved backwards. Okay. The Union goes. Fire and hold position. Let's do it. Five, 4. Oh my gosh. 4 cross sabers. That's the game. Take hit. Take hit. And that's the game. You can see that the Confederate player has actually won this one, unlike the real history. 2 generals were killed, 1 Confederate, and Garnett, and then Kimball for the Union was killed. So that's it. Battle Cry. It's a fun game. I find that I play it quite a bit because it's pretty quick and it's not a real good simulation of the battles. In fact, it really has very little to do. It's pretty arbitrary and a fairly artificial simulation, but it's still fun. So I think it's a game that I would always get out and play. Hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll be talking to you later. Take it easy.